on Wednesdays, free until 11. So make sure you come. I will be here on Wednesdays also. It was an awesome time. As you can see, you get painted. The people are fun. The vibe is fun. I love it. Make sure you hit up Club tonight at Rehab.
Yeah, what it do, man? It's going down next time. Real talk. Rap a lot for life. Real talk. Ace Hood next week. You know, at the Roxy, it's gonna go down. Real talk. Real YMCMB. Real talk. Next Wednesday night at the Roxy. That's where we going. You know, Ace Hood gonna be in the building. You know what it is. Rap a lot for life. Free Bootsy, bitch. You know what I'm talking about? Holla, boy.
Hey, I have here with me Joaquin Norwood, and today we're gonna talk about a little bit about him and what he do or what he's been through or what he did. So, when was the last time you produced?
Actually, the last time that I've worked within music production, it's been a couple of years ago. I've actually worked with some independent artists that were, looking for basically instruction and, trying to get a feel and a grasp for the music business itself. And so, because I've worked intricately within the music industry, from writing, producing, managing, all of those aspects, I've working with attorneys, entertainment attorneys, is really how I got my start. I was working with some pretty good attorneys back in Los Angeles, where I'm from originally, and I felt a need with everything that was going on in the industry. A lot of young artists were basically being, in my opinion, being misdirected, manipulated, and taken advantage of in a lot of ways with regards to their ignorance about the business itself. And you have a lot of great talent out there, people who are really great with writing and who are great musicians, but the problem with artists a lot of the time is that they want to focus on their craft, and once they start getting involved in the business aspects of music, it takes away from that creative energy. And that's why you have the concept, in my opinion, of management. Managers are to help facilitate the business, while the artist can actually use their energy for more creation. But I think that it's also a good thing when you have artists that are actually good business people as well, who want to understand the business. And I think that's important for all artists. So that's where my motivation came from, working with some attorneys, and I really don't want to say their name right now, but I learned from some of the best about the business, and I was able to bring that all together. And I wanted to kind of empower young, especially minority artists who have been so used to just following along with the game plan and not really knowing what was in store for them, and who were more likely to be taken advantage of, to kind of empower them, help them understand more things about the business and how to put their own production companies together. I mean, if you noticed in the early 80s, a lot of the what we call the underground gangster rap and stuff like that, if you look at it, a lot of those groups were the ones that kind of forged the area of independent record labels. It's because I think a lot of people from the urban environments, they understand the streets, and they understand business in the streets, and they understand what's fair and what's not fair. So when a lot of these artists in hip hop, especially with regards to more of your urban rap, I think they knew that it would be better for them to take control of their own destiny. So you had a lot of groups coming up with their own independent record labels, which I wanted to do. I wanted to help with that, with the facilitation of creating your own business. Setting up your LLC or your S corporation, how to understand royalties and point metrics and things like that. That once they get into these negotiations with record companies, large record companies, that they would know where they stand and what they should be fighting for with regards to their own copywritten materials and things like that. So I hope I didn't deviate too far.
No. So, with that said, what don't you like about the music industry?
I guess what I don't like about the music industry would be, for the most part, what I believe to be the corruption within the higher rankings is when a lot of artists, when their talents are being exploited by a major record company, they are really put in a paradigm where, they're in most cases given in advance. We like you, we think you're great, so we're going to give you $200,000 to get your life together, maybe get some equipment or whatever you need. And what the purpose of the large record companies is to basically, they're concerned with molding an artist, and a lot of the times they are more likely to say, well, we like your style, but we think your style needs to be more like this. And, that's a great song you wrote, but we have some other writers that we think are writing some material that's more relevant. So, they start to take artists out of their natural place and try to mold them into what they think is going to be profitable for them, because that's their purpose. They want to make profit off of your talent. So I think some artists get lost in the whole game of entertainment, and that's one thing that I don't like. I like to see artists fight for their own independence. And once you get that money, that advance, and all of a sudden you're getting the limousine rides, and you're getting the wardrobe stuff, and you're getting all the aesthetics that the record company wants to build your image with. Once you start selling records, you're not getting any of that money until all that advance is paid back. So it gets kind of tricky. It's almost like, I hate to say this, selling your soul, but you just have to be careful about those contracts that you get into. And it's very good. You have to have great representation, and you just have to have a really good, acute understanding of the business.
So what do you do now?
Well, I actually work professionally. I work as a software engineer, as well as, I still work within music, helping artists out. My focus since I've been back in Houston, I was in DC for almost 3 years, and so I've been back in Houston for about 2 years and working in the energy industry as a software engineer. And now that I've, kind of scaled that back a little bit, I'm looking to start promoting my studio and my efforts to help artists, especially young artists, expose them to the industry, try to teach them a little bit about the business, as well as help them hone their craft of writing or music production or whatever it may be, because technology has come so far. People don't really need to go to these big studios anymore. I mean, you can get so much done with such great quality out of a small home studio. You really don't need to go spend all of that money and have those studios hold on to your masters until you're paid, all of that stuff. Yeah. I like to teach young people how to acquire the equipment that they need, the technology that they need, show them how to work it, show them the structure in songwriting and music production, and how to market themselves, how to take care of business, what to focus on, what not to focus on. Because a lot of young artists, they just want to get their art off without really thinking about the intricacies of and the pitfalls that they may be able to run across.
What inspired you to have your own home studio?
I think because when I first got into actual production, we had a small production company in Los Angeles. My partner and I were working full-time jobs, and in the evening times we were working with artists. And so we started finding that most artists didn't have a lot of money and a lot of resources to hone their art. So ultimately, we would spend a lot of our own money promoting artists and take them to the studios and spending money. So eventually, we started acquiring our own equipment so that all the pre-production could be done on a very low budget within the home. And then once we got that concept where we liked it, then we would only have to spend a few hours in the studio mastering versus spending all of that creative time in the studio, spending thousands of dollars. It's best to be able to do most of the pre-production as low budget as possible so that you can spend, that money making that product come to life with all of the, the things that you need, the nuances you need to add to it in the larger studio.
So, with LA, the environment, how is it different from working in LA and Houston?
Wow. I think that Los Angeles and New York are your primary music hubs. So unfortunately, Detroit, it's not really Detroit anymore. That was a long time ago. So I think for the most part, Los Angeles, the East Coast and West Coast were the primary hubs. Southern music, I actually went to college down south in New Orleans. And I started realizing when I was in college that most of the music, the southern market was the test market. If you were in the West Coast doing music, your music would originally get played down south. I would hear music down south in New Orleans before it would even hit, the West Coast or the East Coast. So when I would go home for spring break or whatever the situation may be, I'd have tapes. I'm like, have you guys heard this? Have you heard that yet? And it still hadn't gotten out to the West Coast or the East Coast because the South was a test market. But the South is really coming alive, and some great things are happening down south. I mean, if you think about everything from New Orleans, New Orleans has had a very large impact on music going, hundreds of years. And I like what I've seen with music in Houston, especially. I mean, I've seen a lot of artists, put Houston on the map, and I've liked the progression that I've seen. So I think that I prefer Houston to LA or New York or the East Coast. I like it here. Houston, great. I mean, the cost of living right now is good. The economy is relatively stable compared to most of the rest of the continental U.S. I like the atmosphere here. If you can handle the humidity, then you can handle Houston. And so this is where I hope to continue to make my home, actually. Those are the vibes I get about Houston.
Okay, so would you start back producing or anything?
Yes, I am in the process of, like I said, I've been scaling back my professional career because I do want to, I kind of want to move away from the corporate structure and get back into the craft of music and film and TV. I have a lot of concepts that I want to work on with TV and film, but music will always be an important part of my life in helping others understand how to create their business in that aspect. So yes, I still have a studio at home, and I plan on opening up very soon to young artists and trying to help in that aspect. So yes.
Okay, so what would people gain from working with you?
Patience, understanding, and I love to educate. So not only are you coming to my studio, not only are you getting state-of-the-art equipment and resources, but you're getting a wealth of knowledge about the industry if you're interested, And what I don't know, I have resources, and I'm more than happy to share my resources with those, where I can't, where I might not have all of the information. I'm more than happy to put people in touch with people who can take it to that next step. So I think they're getting a sincere person who really cares about the industry and the artist, and I'm not looking to take advantage of anyone. I want to make people, I want to, like I said, empower people and give them that confidence to understand the business as well as, developing their craft of being an artist.
So you'll be opening up your studio soon?
Yes, actually, I'm in the process now of of talking with people who are interested in coming around. So, like I said, my studio is a home studio, so I'm not looking to have lines around the door. I'm very low key, and I work with I want to work with a small handful of people, not a lot. So, I'm kind of going to take my projects. I'm going to prioritize those based on the relationships that I develop. And those that I know are really sincere and ready to focus and commit to their craft are the people that I want to really help. Those that are still working it out, well, we can work, but we're gonna pick the low-hanging fruit first and deal with the people who are ready to really, focus.
Okay. So
Maybe eventually I'll, do a larger studio, but right now it's really small, and it's exactly what people need to get started.
Okay, so what are your expectations of yourself?
Expectations of myself. I expect to continue to learn and grow. I'm always going to be a student of life. I'm going to just continue to learn and grow and try to be the best human being I can possibly be and promote freedom and people expressing themselves and freedom of thought and just, everyone needs to start raising themselves to that next level of, of enlightenment, so to speak. So that's what I expected to be just to just to be the kind of person to kind of help motivate people to be the best that they can be.
Okay, so how do you feel about Houston?
Well, like I said, I like Houston. I'm here because, it's Los Angeles is just, that's my home. That's where I was born and raised, but it's really falling apart. I don't really have a lot of comments about the East Coast because I've spent a lot of time out there, but I'm not as aware of, the economics and the social structure there anymore. So I'm very comfortable here in Houston. I really like Houston and a lot of Texas. I like Dallas. I love San Antonio. I spent a lot of time in San Antonio. I don't know. I think I'm becoming a Southern boy, a Southern man, so to speak. I'm not a boy anymore. So.
Okay, so I hear about this book about the music and
This Business of Music. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sorry I don't have the author's name. There are actually a couple of authors that are, that are with that book. But I learned early on. I think I started with the second edition. But This Business of Music, I think, is a staple for all artists, producers, managers, even A&R people. It helps really get you familiar with the business of music, and that's what it's entitled, This Business of Music. So I endorse that book, and there are a lot of other books too, and I can't really, rattle off the names of these other books, but I think that's a staple book for every artist and anyone within the industry who wants to understand the business and the intricacies of business to have.
Okay, well, Houston, you heard it here. If you want to know about music or you're in the industry any type of way, go get the book. What's the name of it?
This Business of Music.
Business of Music. I have here Joaquin Norwood with me, and this is Houston Premier, and we're closing out.